Hi, good evening. Hello, everyone. You're watching the Cheese Room podcast, the Friday night show. It's the caller here live from the man cave. And we've gone full Australian on this show. Not only are we teaching people to speak Australian, we're filled with Australians, it seems, on a Friday. I mean, 2 real ones and a plastic one. So welcome to the plastic one, first of all. Paul, how are you, Paul?
I am sensational. How are you? Yeah, look, really good here. It's bloody cold, and they don't put that in the brochures, mate.
To be honest, it's baking hot here. So I've got absolutely no sympathy for you whatsoever because you're lording it in the winter. So freeze.
Enjoy it, mate. I know that being hot in England is really uncomfortable because you're just not built for it. So yeah,
it's fine. I've got aircon.
Your balls are sweating. It's going to be really uncomfortable for you.
No. I work in aircon, and we've got a couple of rooms with aircon in the house now, so we're good.
Well done. That's where all the Cheese Room subscriptions are going.
Yeah.
No, I have not done a Bob Spur. That's fine. But listen, I've got to ask you a very important question, Paul. Very important question.
Go for it.
England or Australia in the Ashes?
Look, I'd really like to pretend to give a shit, but I find that cricket is the dullest thing on the planet. I would rather jam my testicles in a drawer than watch a test. So, don't care. Really don't give a fuck.
Yeah. So England.
You're welcome. Yeah? You're welcome for my insight.
All right.
Talk to people who care about it.
If England and Australia went to war tomorrow, over, I don't know, kangaroo meat imports or something like that. Obviously Britain would win, no problem. But my question is, which side of
hang on a minute. You said England and Australia, and now you're saying that
right,
Scotland and
the
Ireland
United Kingdom of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland versus Australia.
Right. Yep.
Okay,
so what's the context? Where is this war happening? Because I think that's important, because Australia's really long way away, and if it's a war over here, then the British are likely to go. It'd be like the Second World War, where they just went, "Hey, we're at war," and then stayed at home and smoked cigars. It would be exactly the same.
But that wouldn't necessarily be the case, because we've got 2 massive aircraft carriers these days, so we just park them off the coast and.
Right, so that's still going to take about 3 months to get here. So, that's 3 months of smoking cigars before anything happens. Not really that worried, if I'm honest, mate.
You're more neutral than Switzerland. I expected better from you, to be honest. But there we go. JP, are you a Aussie cricket fan?
No.
That killed that then.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it that much that I'm not giving you any more than just no.
Well, that was a really interesting discourse, JP. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
really good
nothing to do with the fact that I woke up all of 11 minutes ago and have zero energy for it.
Or filter
sport of Christmas. Yeah, well, that's fine.
And how everyone says, when people read the news that they have nothing on underneath. JP actually has nothing on underneath.
I stood up 5 minutes ago and got pelters
JP,
for it.
You've grown a moustache since I last saw you.
Yeah, no, it's not it's one of those ones where you were shaving and then the kids started screaming and you walked out and you came back to finish the job, and then my wife's gone, "Well, you're not keeping that, are you?" And I'm going, "Well, obviously now I have to." So we're about a week in. It's coming in strong. Let's see how long I can keep it going. If you want to start a GoFundMe for my mustache support page, then I'll be all for it.
I thought it was like some sort of cricket thing, but obviously not. Cam, you're slightly more Australian than these two, I think, in your loyalty for the Australian cricket team. Are you excited that you're going to lose over in England this year?
No, I think we'll win the Test series 5-0.
Do you think you'll win the Test series 5-0?
Yeah. Melbourne Cricket Club member here. Yes, I go to the Ashes when they're on here, and I've been on over there. But that was forgettable when Flintoff might have skilled us 1 year. But enjoyed the first day last night, even though I only watched the first couple of hours because it didn't finish till 3 a.m. in the morning. So, interesting day's play. We only got just under 400 on a batting there. So let's hope the boys can drop anchor on the pitch there and back for a good day and a half.
Let's see if your insights into.
I've got a question. If you're, fully blue and totally ochre and all that, why do you have a Union flag cushion on your sofa?
Yeah, actually, good call. Yeah, you got me. Yeah, good call. I'll be quiet there.
Good lad.
Maybe it's just an Australian flag folded up because they've always got that there to remind them who the boss is. Yeah.
We just leave it Union Jack facing up. Always. It's one in everyone's cupboard, Union Jack facing up, and we go out and we sniff it at night when we're a little bit lonely.
JP, I'm going to be a wanker here because it's a Union flag unless it's on a boat.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
And that's why Paul's here. He's full of that sort of
historical knowledge and beauty, mate, all in one package.
Yeah, well, we've got a good show for you tonight. 50 of you watching already. Please do hit that like button and smash it up. We're going to be covering the fixtures, which have obviously been unveiled this week. No, we haven't got Newcastle at home. Thank God for that. We're going to be talking transfers and a little bit about Kulusevski, which looks like being our first signing of the summer. So exciting, making exciting moves in the transfer market already. And we can touch on the fan advisory board because the nomination, I've seen the nominations drop into my inbox today, so I get to vote on something, but I haven't looked at it yet. So that'll be exciting.
Can we ask, who's more excited about talking about the fan advisory board or watching the Ashes? Because I'm more excited about the fan advisory board.
The Ashes.
Yeah.
Well, we can get there. Everyone in the comments can tell us if your answer to that question says more about how enjoyable you are to listen to after this show.
Yeah. Drop a comment. So there we go. Angie's at Spurs, and here's our fixtures. So we kick off with a Brentford away. Thoughts on that from you three? Paul, I'll go to you first.
Well, hopefully they won't have David Raya this time because hopefully he can go for us. Because I think that in the last game that he did a huge amount to keep minute for them to then go on and score goals, bitches. Look, it's really difficult to say at the moment, isn't it? Because we know that the style is going to change massively. I don't know about you two, but I remember watching Brisbane Roar under Postecoglou, and I also went to a lot of the Asian Cup games when Australia won the Asian Cup. And he has a very different style of football than what we've been forced to endure for the last 3 years. And it's going to take time for all those instructions and methods to bed in. So, it could be a rocky start. We could have a couple of difficult games to start with as the players kind of bed in and learn. So I'm going to say it's really difficult to pick. But once his methods are kind of ensconced in them, I think that you'll see something that's pretty impressive, and hopefully we can actually get ourselves up into top four again.
Man United home first game, JP. Looking forward to that one.
It's about as tough as it could get, really. I mean, obviously, Man City says hello, but we've got the hoodoo over them. I remember I looked at the schedule list when it came out, and I thought, "Geez, that's a tough run-in." And then I looked at all the other games and gone, "Actually, I don't beat back on us to win any game." So realised that actually Brentford and Bournemouth in the first 3 games wasn't actually that bad an opening. Yeah. But yeah, this will be, hopefully we've got the crowd behind us, and because we're going to need it in that first game. That second game.
Ange's first game, And it's kind of a big deal, isn't it? Hopefully there'll be a good reception.
It's gonna be a big deal over here. Like, it will be a massive deal. Yeah.
And we're kind of lucky that we've got the tour coming as well, because that means that we're going to get to see the first iteration of Ange's Tottenham in Perth. Yeah, and that's going to be huge. We've had so many inquiries coming through Spurs since the tour was announced, and then they've just gone through the roof since Ange was announced. So I think it's going to be absolutely massive over here, and it's going to see a big change in the way that that people are supporting Tottenham over here. I think it's going to become that Spurs is just going to go gangbusters for it.
Mm. Well, they're flying into a private airport, aren't they? It's a shame you're not there. You can't be there to greet him at the airport, but I'm sure there must be.
There's so much that we're able to do with them. So I've been working with the club quite closely for the last couple of months over things. So we've got some open trainings. We've got some. We got Ledley over, so we're having a night with Ledley. We've got we've got a five-a-side that the club coach is going to be involved in. We've got all these different things that are going to have access to players. They're doing junior trainings. It's going to be a really, really big weekend in Perth, and I think with Ange being there as well, that we'll probably see kind of more interaction than maybe we would have had it been an Italian or a Portuguese person.
My geography of Australia is rubbish. So we're flying into Perth and playing there, is it? Or where are they touring around?
So they're only really going to Perth. I mean, Australia is, I think that the best way to describe it is fucking huge. And I don't think you can really understand how big it is until you try and drive it. But for example, the UK fits into New South Wales something like 15 or 16 times. So that will give you a rough idea.
Well, it doesn't really, because I don't know where New South Wales is or how big that is. But
well, okay, all right.
It's
so
15 times the UK.
I think driving from Sydney to Perth is the equivalent of driving from London to Moscow.
Okay, right. Okay, so a long way.
So that will give you a bit of an idea. So people are flying in from all over the country to go to Perth. They're coming into Perth. They're spending, I think, 4 days there. Having a piss up on my birthday with me, so that'd be nice.
Where are you living, Paul? You live Sydney, don't you?
I live about an hour north of Sydney.
Okay, so you flying to Perth or driving? Or?
Yeah, I'm flying. Yeah, it's huge, mate. It's like 5 hours on a plane, so.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. It's a big drive. You'd be taking three or 4 days, maybe more, to do it.
Yeah.
Through a lot of desert as well.
And how many games are we playing there? Just one or?
Just one, yeah. Just the one game against Wet Spam.
Okay.
So obviously there's a big furore at the moment about where they're going to park all the caravans in Perth. But I'm hoping they can sort that out.
Are we playing in Hong Kong or something on the way out there as well?
Playing Singapore and I think Thailand afterwards. I think it's Bangkok.
Okay. Yeah. Proper. Lot of miles. A lot of air miles. Steve Diver would approve of the air miles. That's what.
He would. He'll probably be getting them. If the butler will let him out, he'll be getting those air miles.
Yeah, is he over there for that, Steve? Is he over? He
hasn't mentioned it yet. He did come over here earlier this year.
Yeah, but he likes to just travel for the sake of it. He'd probably travel to
make
Australia.
It a work trip.
Yeah, make it a work trip. Travel to Australia, be there for 24 hours, and fly back. Via Moscow or something, something random. It's all good. Sounds fun. Sounds a lot of fun, Paul. And I can imagine the excitement.
Oh yeah, it's going to be huge, mate. Yeah, really excited about it.
Are these two Australians as excited? Are you two going to try and get over there and see it? Or?
I looked at taking the boys over and then realised the whole trip was going to cost me about $3,000 and decided against it. And then Ange got announced and flights immediately went up. So
yes,
I didn't think much further beyond that, but I'll be watching it.
So it is undrivable then. You couldn't put someone in the ute. And
I had some friends from the UK come over for Christmas one year, and they sat with us at the dinner table on Christmas Day. Had a lovely chat with them, talking about Boxing Day plans, and ironically, I was probably going to watch the Boxing Day test because it's the one day of the year I fall asleep in front of. And then they said, we'll probably just drive to Perth. You can't drive to Perth in a day, let alone would I ever recommend anyone to drive to Perth. So I can understand this is hard for you to get your head around, but I'm not gonna drive anywhere to Perth. I'm not going to drive to Perth anytime. There we go.
It is genuinely quite incredible. Like a country the size of Australia has a population of about 10 million people, is it?
25 million.
No. 25 million. Okay, that's still not a lot.
Consider that you can take 90% of the country and just put a dome over it and not count Australia because you can't live in it. So there's that.
Do you know what? There has been people living in it for about 40,000 years, though. So maybe that might not
That's
be
true.
I think you can live in it, but yeah. But
It's
yeah,
just
and then
this doesn't meet with our European sensibilities.
Yeah.
So it's a
you
bit
got,
hot. And there's no food.
my goodness!
you got 70 million people in the United Kingdom in an island that is tiny, as you say, 18 times or whatever smaller than New South Wales. So yeah, it's it always it blows my mind, to be honest, the relatively sparse population. But that must be nice in a way. I'd like to see less people.
Well, you say that, but when you get into the cities, they're just as crowded because everyone lives on the coast, mate. There's
100%.
very little population inland from the coast.
Yeah, but you got a lot of coast.
We do have a lot of coast, yeah, but a lot of it is places that you wouldn't want to live either. So once you get up to the north part of the country and there's crocodiles walking in your back garden, no, you probably don't really want to live there. There's a lot of shit that wants to kill you here, caller.
Snakes.
I know. I've seen the map with things trying to kill you here, things trying to kill you there. It's not my cup of tea. To be honest. Yeah. How many spiders have you had to throw out your house, Cam, this year?
Oh, probably a handful.
They're not paying rent, mate.
I'm joking. Yeah, they're not paying rent. No.
Okay.
Oh, I've seen redbacks, whitetails. You get all the huntsmans. It's pretty normal. I'm sure James has seen a fair share of redbacks and whitetails in his new house.
I don't stay long enough to determine what they are. They're Mortine straight away.
I have to be honest. I've been doing a lot of clearing out in the garden, and I sort of get a bit squeamish about the spiders over here. So I wouldn't stand a chance in hell. Anyway, let's move on to September. We got Burnley away. That's always an attractive tie. Sheffield United home. Arsenal, the scum, 23rd of September away. And then Liverpool at home. So the big matches just keep coming. Moving on to October. Luton away. That's the one everyone's waiting for. Did anyone see, by the way, that Luton put a thing up on their website that said the big boys or whatever with a picture of the traditional Big Six? I thought it was quite funny because some West Ham hams were losing their mind that they were smaller than Tottenham. It was good.
I'll give you a little West Ham anecdote about the tour because I think it just sums them up completely. So the five-a-side that we're going to play. So the idea was that the winners of the Spurs five-a-side would play the winners of the West Ham five-a-side. Right, so it's all getting organised by the promoters and everything. A week ago, West Ham pulled out.
Whoa!
Because they're fucking chicken shit, tiny club mentality. So that's why they're not in the Big Six.
Yeah, well, they're not in the Big Six because I don't think they've ever finished in the Big Six. To be fair,
and they're chicken shit, tiny club mentality.
Well, there you go. I'm not going to argue with that. Absolutely not. November, Chelsea at home, Wolves away, Villa at home. So doesn't seem to be any easy games in this league, does there? December, the seasonal period is crammed. Actually,
there's a banker.
I'm going to be there for Bournemouth. That's my trip home.
Oh,
so
I'll see you there, no doubt, Paul. Again.
Yeah, a couple of beverages would be lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. 5th of December, the Caravan Club are coming to town, and then we've got the Newcastle on the 9th, Everton on the 23rd, and Boxing Day over at Brighton and Hove, and New Year's Eve, Bournemouth. There's loads, isn't there? Loads going on in December.
So are you sure that's New Year's Eve? On account of the fact that New Year's Eve is normally the 31st of December.
Day before New Year's Eve. Well, there's the day before New Year's Eve. Stop being pedantic.
And I noticed that you didn't talk about the Carabao Cup round 5. Is that because you think we won't have to play that one?
We won't get there. But to be honest, I'm just staggered that on paper, and I appreciate these fixtures are going to move, but we're playing 7 games in December. That's huge, isn't it?
It is huge.
I'm slightly crazy, to be honest. But there you go. January, my birthday game will be Manchester United away, by the looks of it. I'm not going to mention the Carabao Cup semi-final, obviously, either, Paul. and
or the FA Cup round 4,
or the FA Cup round 3 or 4, and Brentford at home. So actually, quite a quiet January for us.
How dull is it going to be if we're already out of both those cups in January?
I was thinking exactly the same thing. That's a quiet Jan.
We won't be. We won't.
I think that the thing about that is that Postecoglou will want to be the first Australian manager to win something. So I don't think that he's going to go easy in any of the cups.
Postecoglou will want to be the first manager to win something.
No, we have won stuff in the past, JP.
Well, okay, yeah. No, I've fallen into
not in
small club
JP's
mentality.
lifetime. Fucking millennial.
Not 8.
February, Brighton and Hove, Wolves at home, Everton away, Chelsea away, and the cup final, which hopefully we will be in. And then March, we've got Palace, Villa, Fulham, Luton. April's packed. And this is the run-in is pretty horrible, isn't it? Yeah. So West Ham, Forest, then you've got Newcastle away. Again, we know we don't do well there generally. Manchester City at home, Arsenal at home. Vile. Follow that up with Liverpool away, and you've got yourself an interesting run-in. So there we go.
The one thing I would say about that run-in, though, is that by that time, they will be playing a Postecoglou system. They will understand a Postecoglou system, and we're going to be in better shape than we are at the start of the season.
Yeah, quite likely. I mean, how much? I mean, I do like this one. Stop passing it back. How much do you think, Paul? Because I've not chatted to you about it. These two Aussies, I've got their views on Postecoglou quite a lot lately. How much do you think he's going to change Spurs?
Well, I watched a lot of the Asian Cup when Australia won that, and he took an Australian side that had no right to win the Asian Cup. There were far better technical sides in it, and he blew them away. He made Mas Luongo look like an absolute genius. I remember at the time tweeting Windy, because Windy had talked a lot about Mas Luongo and saying, I think we missed a trick by selling him because he looked absolute mustard. So what he seemed to be able to do was within the system that he likes to see teams play is make these players excel in these positions. And I think that a lot of it has got to do with what he's asking them to do and how that works on the pitch. So, often people slag players like Harvey off and say, he's negative, he passes back, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of that has got to do with how he's been asked to play. He played under Pep at Bayern, and there's no way he was doing back passes as soon as he got the ball then. So I think that we have to recognise that the Postecoglou, if he can get the tune out of the players, then and play within the system that he's got, that we're going to actually be better than the sum of our parts. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I've seen from what he did with Australia and also Brisbane Roar, is he made the team better than the sum of their parts.
So there's definitely a place for Davidson, Sanchez and Eric Dyer in that system then, is there?
Look, I mean, it's a different setup with the centre-back. So their job in a Postecoglou system is to basically head crosses away, and both Dyer and Sanchez can do that. So potentially, yes. I mean, I don't think they're the best choices, but potentially there's a place for them within it. And a lot of it, apparently Dyer was playing with an injury all season. So, again, I don't like this jumping on a player and going, he's fucking terrible, because he's made some mistakes. I think that a lot of it really has to come down to how they've been asked to play.
Well, certainly negative tactics, but we're not going to see that from Ange, are we, JP? We should. I think we're going to, as we move through the close season, I think we're going to do sort of who would you sell, who would you keep. So stay tuned to the Cheese Room for all that kind of stuff. But moving on, we've got to advertise our Patreon here. So, Nigel Farage is offering this £5 a month. You'll get a monthly Win a Pint with Nigel prize. Ask him anything on Twitter Spaces, plus much, much more, basically. Whereas we offer Davo in a shirt. with exclusive content, prizes and discounts. Our chat group, Cheese Room merch, fantasy football. It's all just £3 a month. So if you haven't got over there already, go to patreon.com/the Cheese Room podcast. For £3 a month, you can join our community, and it is a fantastic place to be. I'm sure there are people in the chat who will testify thus. Let's talk about transfers. So first up, Fabrizio Romano tweeted out earlier today, Davinson Sanchez has decided to leave Tottenham this summer. Discussions will take place to find a new club as he wants a new experience. Spurs and Davinson agents are on it.
So he'd like to have a new experience other than people booing him when he.
I think that's where it's going. Yeah. So
how can you believe
that? well, all right. Here's my question: Davinson Sanchez treated unfairly by the Tottenham faithful. Cameron, you can lead us off.
Yes, I think he's clumsy. I don't think he's proven to be not the money that we purchased from him. Probably hasn't come to the outcome we wanted.
42 million, I think. 42 million.
Yeah. Look, he's obviously. I admire him because the past season where he copped quite a fair amount of booze, the following game he actually put in half a decent shift. So the kid's got some talent, but I don't know if the level of the EPL was too high for him. I think we, as fans, we did slightly treat him unfairly, and you can always have the boo boys around, but I think we made him the sacrificial goat for a lot of our losses at times. I get maybe due to some of his defensive lapses, but you don't go piling on a player. It's not going to mentally help him in the match, and it'll probably make him be a bit more clumsy as time goes on. So I think, yes, to an extent, yeah.
It's just not cricket, mate.
It's not cricket.
JP.
I think he has been. I think I've got an opinion with this on a lot of the players that we think are shit at the club now. And that's that when he was shit, he was coming in and out of the team. But when he actually had like sustained runs, he looked decent. The back end of Conte's first season, when Romero was out, he looked decent. When he was in, I think it was probably his first season with Poch, when he played pretty consistently between Toby and Yan, he looked decent. But you can throw him, Harry Winks, Lo Celso, maybe Harry Winks a little less, into this category of, they come in, they play next to players who are also coming in for one game and they look shit and you wonder why. I'm a big believer that players need to play themselves into form and into confidence. And if you don't give that to a player, and then every time he comes on the pitch he gets booed, he's never gonna show the confidence. Do we need to upgrade on him as a player? Yeah, absolutely. But for a lot of the players that we want to get rid of, we haven't helped them with the way we've managed. Not we. Daniel Levy hasn't helped them with the way that he's managed the team and the manager situation recently.
Can I add to that, just with regards to, I think it was last season, as James said, he went on a ton of games, like a 10-game stretch or something, where we didn't concede a goal or something to that effect. Muir said it in one of his pods a month or two back, that Sanchez, he did show a fair bit in last season of Conte, where we didn't concede a goal. I don't know if it was 10 games, it might have been 8 to 9, but there was a string of games where he was pretty damn good.
Lo Celso was almost our player of the season Jose's first year, when he played 10 to 12 games straight at the back end. He was really good. Give players a run and they look better.
Yeah. So I want to add something to that, because I think that a lot of the problem that Sanchez has is not about ability, but it's about confidence and mental strength. So when he was playing at his best, he was between Alderweireld and Vertonghen. And I can't think of a better pair to make you feel confident about your own abilities.
Yeah.
And he was quite outstanding then. When he's been moved into slightly different positions, he's felt, uncomfortable with it. That's when he starts making mistakes. And then people get on top of him on Twitter or, at the side
of
the
pitch. Get out my club.
Get out my fucking club. You ain't fucking fit to wear that shirt, you cunt. So, none of that is really particularly helpful for a player's confidence. And once the confidence goes at that level, I think that's when those mistakes creep in, because, I don't think any of us can really understand what it takes to be a professional athlete and what it takes to maintain that confidence and mindset at that level.
Yeah.
For me, Sanchez, the fault lies with the person who bought him in the first place. He's clearly not good enough. I think you're right. I think he's absolutely a confidence. His confidence has been shot to pieces over a long series of calamities during his time at Spurs. You could make a very decent highlight reel of all the cock-ups that he's made since he's been at Spurs. And it is hard adjusting Dutch league to English league because actually, it's not the same pace, it's not the same standard. But yes, he has looked good in fits and starts. I remember the North London derby sticks in my head because before the game we were in the bar and the pre-match team news came in, and Romero was out and they stuck Sanchez in, and everyone was like, "Oh God, that's it, we've had it."
I remember.
He played all right. He played all right. Did all right. Didn't make any mistakes. Played relatively well. Didn't give the ball away too much. So he's got it with his locker to play well. But I think elite players play well for a period of time, and he's never shone that brightly for a period of time. He's been okay, but he's never looked £42 million player to me.
And that's because, if he can play at that level sometimes, then clearly he has the physical ability and attributes to do that. It's the mental ability that
I agree.
lacking. So, I think that...
Well, you look at him, Paul. He's an athlete, isn't he? He's built like an outhouse. He's tall. He should be good in the air. He's fast. He's our fastest centre-back, right? No reason why he shouldn't be cracking. His attributes are all there. I think you're right. I think it's mental.
And the difference between really world-class players and just Premier League class players is the mental fortitude. It's the mental strength that carries them through.
Yeah.
On their day, so peak Davison Sanchez versus peak Eric Dyer at centre back. Who do you pick?
Oh, wow, what a contest!
Because it's not a contest in my opinion. The best of their abilities, which one is the one you want to partner with someone else at centre back?
Who are you asking the question to? The people at home.
The people at home.
People at home.
Because in my head, it's not a question. I
would say it's not really much of a question for me. I would say Dyer, and that's because of his mental strength and also his leadership ability. And okay. Yes, he's been prone to some mistakes this season, but there was a long time where he was really mastering that back three pretty fucking well.
So when when Davison Sanchez is mentally strong and he's enjoying his football, but
he's never been mentally strong, really. He's never been mentally strong. I mean, if we're just talking about, the physical talent, the ability to do things, then Sanchez probably has more talent than Dyer, but he doesn't have the same mental strength. And I think that at that level, that the mental strength is probably one of the most important things.
I think they're both pretty terrible, if I'm honest, but that's another story. So Sanchez looks like he wants out of the club. Paul, disgracefully treated, really. I think we agree. So it's no surprise that he wants out. The question is, who's going to buy him?
I think that he'll probably find a space over in one of the European leagues, so the French league, the Italian league even. Those are all places where he wouldn't be under the same kind of pressure that you get put under in the Premier League. And I think that he'd regain his confidence and be a better player because of that.
JP, Cam, got a view?
Yes, Spain written all over him, I reckon. Or he'll be off to La Liga to a Villareal or somewhere like that. I reckon that's it's probably about his level.
Yeah, I'd go Europe. I'd go Holland. Maybe he goes back to Holland to where he came from. I would anywhere on the continent to a less pressured league. Yeah, I'd probably go Holland or Spain.
All right. The important question: what's he worth? What sort of fee are we going to recover? 42 million back for him, Paul?
I think you'd be lucky to get 15, but that's more of an indication of how he's been playing than an indication of whether he knows how to kick a football or head a football. You can only, it's based on current form, isn't it? That's how the valuations go. So if we get 15 for him, I think we should be happy.
Cam, 15. Any advance on 15? Do 15? Do I hear 18? 18?
Was there money on the continent yet? No, I'd be going 10 to 15.
There's a bit more sloshing around, but there's not like anything like the Premier League.
Problem is, everyone knows we're not going to play him, and we haven't done so for like 2 years. So we're not in any position to demand probably what we could get, if he had been. So he's probably like, if he was playing in the Bundesliga or La Liga right now, we'd probably be looking for 20 mil for him. But we'll struggle to get 15. I reckon we'll get like 12.
12, yeah.
How many years left in his contract?
Human angle to this.
Sorry, one at a time. Sorry, Cam.
How many years left in his contract?
I think he's got 1, 2, not many.
Yeah, 10 to 15.
Sorry, Paul, what were you saying, mate?
There's a human angle to this. The club have got to realise that Sanchez was broken by the end of last season, and as a human being, he needs to get away from this club, and they need to do everything that they can to make that happen.
Clearly, you've never done business with Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, it really depends on the situation, doesn't it? I mean, he basically cut Matt Doxey loose.
Yeah.
Good call.
That's because he cocked up the loan signings.
True.
It's not, not due to anything else.
But there has been situations where contracts have been cancelled for the benefit of both players. So, both parties.
Springs to mind.
So I think that it's possible, but the club have got to do the right thing by Sanchez and help him get out.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to cover the hotel. Dave's just reminded me he's there trolling away in the chat. But there's going to be a lovely place for you Aussies to stay to watch Ange ball at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Spurs been in the news this week for adding. They want to add, I think, 5 floors to the hotel at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Does that excite any of you guys? Are you interested in the hotel? Or do you think it's... I mean, I see a lot of commentary on Twitter that says, why are we investing in real estate when we should be worried about what goes on the pitch? What's your angle on this, Paul?
Well, look, I spent a long time living near Tottenham.
While I get a beer.
I spent a long time living near Tottenham, and I don't think I necessarily want to do that again. So I don't know if I'd stay there. But I mean, I think that one of the things that Levy's kind of lauded for is the business sense that he has. So there's a stadium that hosts 19 games a season, and the rest of the year it's empty. And he's gone, well, that's silly. Let's get some more stuff in there. And so he's got the American football pitch. He's got the go-karting. He's got the concerts. He's got all this, which brings money into the club. And as financial fair play eventually becomes effective, we are going to have to be able to compete. So if he can bring more money into the club from other sources, then potentially we should be one of the clubs with the biggest income, therefore should be able to actually compete, which we haven't been able to do because of all the doping that's going on. So for me, I think that Levy is best suited looking after all those business things. And hopefully Munn looks after the kind of football operation stuff. Then hopefully we get someone who can actually recruit underneath him. And then maybe we have a structure that works. So, and in a way, I think having the hotel and having distractions that are more of a business nature is a really good thing to try and keep Levy away from the football.
It worked well. It worked well when we were building a stadium, though, didn't it?
Yeah, true. But there wasn't. What do we have there? Hitchin?
Yeah. Anyway, I think that I'm more excited about the hotel than I am the cricket, but I think that
it takes longer to play a game of cricket than it does to build a hotel as well.
This is true. And you might not have a result at the end of it. At least now we've got 20 extra rooms. I think to your point as well, even if financial fair play doesn't get its act together, still Levy's not the type of owner, and ENIC aren't the type of owners who go in and they put their hands in their own pockets every year. And nor do I think that should be an expectation on owners. I think there's some weird thing going around with fans that, their owners should buy their clubs for billions of pounds and then perpetually make losses on their clubs out of their own pocket as a kind of passion fund. We lost the right to want that when we sold all of the rights to Sky and whatnot, and it became a business. But the more money he makes, the more money he can spend. It's as simple as that. So if Levy's making more money, I've got no issue with that because it means that Tottenham can spend more money. The issue I've got is how we spend it. It's never been making it. And that's where I think some fans need to kind of pull their head in around the Levy conversation. Plenty of sticks to bat him with. Just none on a cricket field and not about how he's run the business.
He's made horrendous mistakes in the transfer market.
Shocking.
In terms of those mistakes, Cam, do you think that bringing someone in like Munn helps with that?
Yes, because if Munn can instill some form of scouting philosophy, team structure, he's obviously been exposed to the Man City network of how they scout, attract players. If he can actually set something like that up at Tottenham, that's a good thing. Because as you've just mentioned a minute ago, our scouting and recruitment has been rubbish. And what we put money, where our money goes in terms of players, it's been rubbish. So if he can emulate some form of network and structure into this club, which means it de-risks all of our player purchases, I'm all for it because we've been atrocious. We can all agree what we've put money to in terms of players hasn't been great. Our recruiting and scouting has been not great.
I don't think there's ever been a problem with our scouting network. We always get linked with good players. The problem is that
monitoring the situation of
good players. The problem is that we never act on the right players, and that really comes to who's the director of football or the head of recruitment or whatever Steve Hitchen was, and Daniel Levy. So I'm not worried about Scott Munn coming in and needing to create a system where we can identify talent. I'm worried about the right football people being the ones who are taking the advice of the people looking at talent. And that comes down to a handful of people.
Well, they're not mutually exclusive, so I think it works hand in hand. So, they need the right people. We have to get a good team. We have to get a better quality player into this club, however that looks. Let's be honest, guys. You could go through that team and go, yep, out, yep, out, yep. Kane stays, such and such stays. Like, let's be honest, there's some players there that you just shake your head. And over the years, we've purchased players where it's not going to work out.
Ange hasn't worked with a director of football before, has he? Do you think that it will be a DOF, or do you think it will be a head of recruitment? And how do you think he'll work if it is a director of football?
Very good question.
I think at Yokohama there was a director of football because it's all part of that City Group network. But he's had kind of more control where he's been as well.
Because he's got a really good reputation for recruitment as well. If you look at the players that he brought to Celtic, the Japanese players, there was a bit of furore about that. They're not going to be good enough, and they've been outstanding. So he has a really good reputation. He had some excellent players that he brought in at Raw as well that people didn't think were going to cut it, and that team basically just smashed the league for 3-4 years straight.
He did it when he was at Victory as well.
Does he buy players that fit his system is the key thing, because we've generally collected a lot of players that are they're talented footballers, because let's face it, they're elite level footballers, but they haven't necessarily fitted into the system we want to play, and I think that's half the problem at Spurs. We just don't seem to buy players that the manager wants for that system.
But I think the part of that
system changed.
Yeah, it happened with the two very negative managers, and they have particular sort of players that they need for their systems to work, and for whatever reason, whether it was down to Levy or down to Paratici, we weren't able to bring in those players, and we bought in kind of second-hand knockoffs of those players, and so those systems never worked. And now we're kind of stuck a little bit with some second-hand knockoffs for a Conte system that probably aren't going to be able to fit into Postecoglou's system unless they make massive changes in the way they play their game.
Do you think there'll be a big clear out, JP? You've seen how Postecoglou's operate before.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, we've got like 30-something players on the books.
Ooh, and we like 37 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and we probably need to bring in 4 or 5 at a minimum. So, yeah, we can't have a squad of 40 players, 40-plus players hanging around. He'll want to knock that down to kind of 23, 24, really. So, no European football as well. So, yeah, there's going to have to be a massive fire sale, but it'll end up being loans and whatnot.
I think
the other thing about that the squad is that we won't have the European homegrown rules to contend with. So the Premier League homegrown rules are slightly different. So I've seen a lot of kind of calls for Maddison, and there's talk that Maddison may be going to Newcastle.
Right.
People are talking about homegrown players for that, but I don't think we need to be quite as focused on homegrown without the European competition as we previously had been.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, Raya's homegrown, Maddison's homegrown. There's talk of Barnes this week. I mean, which did make me smile because 50 million for Barnes and Maddison would be an interesting deal. But one player that does look like he's going to be signed, sealed, delivered, and yours is Dejan Kulusevski. So I love the fact we've gone back to renegotiate this. No, I don't know the ins and outs of the initial agreement. I mean, Juve published them, but if you read it, it sort of basically says the obligation was 35 million. The price is still 35 million if we don't get Champions League football. But we've gone back and renegotiated it and apparently knocked 5 million euros off the clause. I mean, that's a few bricks in the hotel wall, right, Cam?
First couple of floors in the swimming pool as well. Look, I'm happy Kulu's coming back. I know JP and I had a chat a day or two ago about yesterday around Kulusevski, but yeah, I'm happy with how things are progressing there. Be interesting to see how he goes under Ange.
Are we happy with this, Paul? I mean, Kulusevski obviously had a fantastic first season at Spurs. Last season didn't hit the heights and looked lethargic and a bit leggy really when he played. I thought, but in the same system, so it's a bit of a strange one. He had such a poor season last year in comparison to his debut season. A lot of people saying, well, people figured him out and all the rest of it, but I don't really buy that, to be honest.
I don't think people figured him out. I think that there were some injuries that took their toll. I also think that we talked a lot about the mental aspects earlier, and mentally last season would have been incredibly tough to be in that squad. So I think that those took a big chunk of the confidence from all the players. And as far as that deal, it's a deal, it's a steal, it's sale of the fucking century. I think Kulu is an awesome player, and
I think we paid 17 million so far for him. Just to say, I think we paid 17 million so far euros, so the 30's on top. So 47 million euros.
I still think that's a fantastic deal, and it'd be really interesting to see how Postecoglou wants to play him, because the system is totally different. And
where would he fit?
Well, I think possibly he would come inside and be a 10 type player, which would give him a bit more freedom to move about across the pitch. And I think it'd be really interesting to see him play like that. And there'll be people going, he played like that at Juve and it didn't work out, but that was in a totally different system. So I think it'd be really interesting to see him coming inside and playing in a 10 type role.
He's not a traditional Postecoglou winger who they're pacey and direct, and he's not that. So I think he has to come inside and play one of those 8 positions. He did it a little bit at the end with Ryan, where he was playing kind of a 10 behind Harry and looked okay in spurts. So we'll see how he adapts, but it is an interesting one where he fits. When the rumours that Ange wasn't sold about him were coming around, I sort of got it, but also when he's just that good a player, you take the risk on him and you figure out a way. And at 30 million euros, that's kind of what you're paying for squad players at the moment anyway. So if at the worst he becomes a squad player for Spurs, it's still a decent deal.
He falls in Davo's 25 to 30 million pound player. For that. So, I'll be interested to know what Davo's got to say in the chat. Seb's telling me my numbers are wrong. Fair enough.
Davo's got a lot to say in the chat, to be fair.
He normally has, yeah. I don't know why he doesn't just join, to be honest, and get it off his chest. It would be hilarious. But yeah, he's moving house, I think. So there you go. Look, for my take on it, I think Kulusevski showed enough in his first season for us to realise that he is a quality player, and we need quality players in the squad. It's just an interesting one to see how we'll line up, and maybe we can do some graphics and formations around how we think Ange will line his team up, because we've got so many players on loan. So I think of Brian Hill when you were saying fast, direct, running, winger. Brian Hill surely for that system would be perfect. JP.
Yeah,
100%. I think I said it on one of the other shows that he's my my pick for the player that's kind of out in the cold that'll thrive under Ange. If he can, stay not on the ground, he'll do well.
Mm-hmm. Well, next transfer rumour is the one I've already mentioned. Maddison and Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes and James Maddison, I should say. It's not true, apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano. I said this was probably nonsense, as I think anyone with a brain would probably acknowledge. But my question to you guys is, what are those pair worth, and would you want to see them at Spurs? Do they fit into as I've got three Ange Postecoglou experts on the show, I should probably ask, where would they fit? So Harvey Barnes and James Maddison, Paul.
I think Maddison kind of fits better for me, and I think that what Postecoglou likes with his sort of number 6 type players is someone who can be more creative than we've seen in the past. So I think that he would fit quite well there. I'm not quite sure that Barnes fits the Postecoglou system, and I know that traditionally, kind of, clubs that are relegated sort of have a bit of a fire sale and just try and get some money on these players that are worthwhile. But I don't know that Leicester are necessarily going to do that, because they're going to want to be coming straight back up, and they're not going to fire sale their players in the same way that we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
In terms of value, like Maddison alone, I would expect to be paying 50 million for. So it was like, can you throw in Harvey Barnes?
Left 1 year left.
Yeah, there's enough interest in him that Leicester will be holding out for that. If it got to like the last week of the window and they were like, oh shit, actually we need to get these wages off the books, then maybe you start talking about 35, 40, but there's enough interest in him that it won't go that far. And then Barnes is probably 25, 30?
Probably. Do you agree with that, Cam? Would you say that?
Yeah, I'm seesawing on Maddison. Yes and no. I don't know if he could press. I don't know what the demands of what Postecoglou wants Maddison could do. I'm not 100% sure. I've seesawed yes this past week and seesawed no, because I know that we've been rumoured, particularly with Maddison more so than Barnes, for the last 6 months. So, yeah, I'd agree with the valuations that JP's saying, but with regards to whether I'd have him, I'm not 100% sure.
But you talk about the press. One of the sort of key metrics that Postecoglou records is how much time the opposition have on the ball in our half. And the idea behind that is he doesn't want them to have it in our half at all. He wants to press up in their half, and he wants to win it back there. So if you've got a 6 that's sitting there and being the creator from deep, the kind of quarterback type thing, then he's not going to have to press. He's supposed to sit back, and he's supposed to wait for us to clear the ball, win it back, get it to him, and then he can look for something creative. So that's why I think that Maddison suits that role. And you're right, he's not going to press. He's not that kind of player. No. The one that I worry most about in that press is whether Kane can keep that up.
Yeah.
Would you sell Kane then, Paul?
Look, I think that it would be a very brave man to go, sell Harry, he's rubbish. But I do think
we all know he's not rubbish, but he's got 1 year of his contract left. So,
he does have 1 year in his contract. And ideally, I would like him to stay, and I would like him to buy into the system within the 12 months he's got left on his contract and sign a new contract. That's what I'd like. Do I think that's going to happen? I think that what he wants is that Premier League record. So I don't think he's going abroad. So if he were to move, it's going to be to another Premier League club. And then you start looking around and you go, well, apparently he's pulled out of Man United. Man City's off the table because they've got this crazy Viking. He wouldn't go down the road. And I don't think he'd go to Chelsea either. So, where's going to take him? Newcastle is the only option. And it's fucking grim and cold up there. So, I think we're probably going to hold on to him.
I think you're optimistic, to be honest. I think I just can't see him staying. I genuinely can't, because I just think he's given Spurs everything. And whether you want to say the club have let him down, I suppose ultimately the club have let him down, because we haven't had a manager who can put an 11 out there and actually win stuff. And that is what a top world-class player deserves. I don't want Kane to go, but I just can't see him going, I'm going to hang on for another 3-4 years of this. I just can't see him sign another deal.
I don't think he will, though.
Season, no problem, but JP?
I think he'll break the record in 2 years. So I think he does this year and next, and then he goes off to Madrid or Bayern.
Maybe signs an extension and then goes. No, he's got the record.
He could get to the end of this year. Let's say he has another 30-goal season. He's 17 goals behind Shearer.
Yeah, that's the word you're looking for, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's 7 a.m. now, and I'm still not entirely awake. I reckon he looks at it and goes, I'm not guaranteed trophies with United. I'm not guaranteed trophies with Newcastle. To your point, Man
Newcastle's tempting, though. They're just about to get Barella.
But if there will still be interest
Barella, that's an amazing signing. He is quality.
Yeah. There'll still be interest from the likes of Madrid and Bayern another year later. So it could be a case of, all right, give me one more year. Let's see how we do. I'll get my 17 goals and then bugger off somewhere where I'm guaranteed to win something.
Maybe. I think you're all optimists, and I love your optimism, but I just don't see him signing a deal. I just don't.
If I was Harry Kane, I would leave for Newcastle at the end of my contract.
Yeah, I would say exactly the same thing.
There's a better than 0% chance that he signs a 1-year extension just to get that record and then goes off onto the continent.
Well,
the interesting thing about the record was that if he did it all at Spurs, that would be the only time that it's been done at a single club as well. Because Rooney was at 2 clubs, Shearer was at 3 clubs. So it'd be the only time that's ever been done at that level at a single club. And I wonder whether that plays into his mindset at all.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? I just I hope and pray you're right, but can't see it. I want to believe, but I don't.
But JP, do you think? Can I ask a question there? With JP knowing he's more Ange than me, do you think you wouldn't be surprised if Ange goes, "You can go," because I want to build a team that can score many goals and not just to be reliant on that one single point?
Yeah, like if Ange wants to play his system purely, Richarlison's a better fit for the role than Harry. I don't know where Harry
fits like a lunatic.
And Son's better than Richarlison.
And Son's better,
because he wants that really quick number 9 in behind running onto things. Yeah,
and and I think we need to improve on the wings a little bit as well. So he'll be adapting his system and giving up something to fit Harry into it. But you do that for players like Harry. So if Ange says, after a year, this isn't working, there might not be a 1-year contract on the table.
Mm-hmm. The problem is, you get to January and he can negotiate with any foreign club, any European club. So, and then we lose him on a free. It's just it's high stakes roulette.
If he's not got the Premier League record yet, he is not going to go overseas.
I don't know that that's the case. I don't know. I genuinely don't know that's the case, because you could flip it like this, right? He could go play for, say, Madrid. He could go do 2 years then still come back and break the record.
I think that still depends.
Sorry, what are you?
If his ankles are still in one piece, there's no guarantee he can go over to Madrid
2.5 years.
and you can come back.
I think a lot of it depends on how many goals he scores this year as well. Because if he scores 30, then theoretically he could do 2 years abroad and come back, and like 17 is not a massive target for him to hit over a season or two. But if he scores 20, then all of a sudden he's got to score 27. And is he going to get back in time to score 27?
But he's also got to look at where he's going to go. So if he's going to go overseas for 3 or 4 years, he's not going to come back to a top 6 side.
Why not? Spurs would have him back tomorrow.
I don't know that we would, mate. I don't know that in 4 years' time.
Yeah, I agree.
He fits what we need.
Yeah. If Ange is still there, theoretically, well, odds are he won't be. But if Ange is still there, I couldn't say that he would want Kane back.
It would be a sentimental buy. It wouldn't be a buy on ability. So I think it's more likely to come back at Brentford. Right? If he goes overseas, he'll come back to a Brentford or something like that.
Can't see that. But we shall see. It's an interesting one because the pendulum of power has swung from the club towards the player now. So
leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting. The irony of if Harry Kane left and then us winning a cup would be, be quite incredible. Next up, Lenglet, Clément Lenglet. This is one Davo is particularly fond. He's fond of everyone, but he really likes Lenglet. Sacré bleu. So, we've released him obviously from his loan. He's gone back to his club as per the terms and agreements of the loan. Lenglet. Fabrizio says Spurs have got 2 more names in the list for left-footed centre-back, but Lenglet remains among the options. And Barca appreciate Giovanni Lo Celso. What's all this about then? Lenglet. Now, for me, I like him. Cultured, left-sided centre-back. But he did have a mistake or two in him, didn't he, Paul?
Yeah, but also I think that the main thing is that I don't know that he works in a back four.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember seeing him play in a back four. And, I could be wrong. I often am wrong. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. But, he's a player that's better suited.
Newcastle away in a back four.
Yeah, that worked well, didn't it? But he's a player that's best suited to a back three. And I think that we'd be silly to buy centre-backs that are best suited to a back three because that's not how Postecoglou is going to play. And we've said, like many times just tonight, it's about buying the right players for the system that you're playing. So for me, Lenglet's not an option.
Unless he's come... No. Unless we're... Here you go.
No. Je dis non.
Unless we're negotiating with Barca because they're going to spend 30 mil on Lo Celso and then... Lenglet's been used as make weight and he's going to be a squad player for us. I don't really see why we're having the conversation.
Well, the fee's 5 million, by the way. The fee is 5 million, apparently.
The fee could be 2 million.
His wages are high.
Like, is he improving the squad at all? And I think the kind of evidence based on what we've seen is that he's not that much better than Dyer. So
I think that's harsh on him.
Maybe a little bit better.
He's
in a back four. I don't think he's that much better than Dyer.
No, that's a fair point. But he's left-sided, isn't he? And
that plays. But we're going to have.
We haven't got anyone who can play left-sided centre back. That's the issue, isn't it? They've got to sign a left-sided centre back. But
if we sign Lenglet, we still have to sign a left-sided centre back.
Go after someone who can play in a 4 rather than a 3, or 2 rather than 3. Cam Lenglet, will you?
No, don't. No,
you don't like him. No.
Get him out my club.
He's rubbish, he is. He's rubbish.
What about the other way, Lo Celso? I mean, I thought he might get a second bite of the cherry with Postecoglou coming in because, again, he's a player who presses a lot, has got a lot of energy and a lot of running in him. I thought maybe it might be we see where he fits in, Paul, or do you think he's burnt all his bridges at Spurs? Is that the issue?
I think he's played under enough managers and not managed to fit properly in any of them. I think that his problem is not necessarily about the style of play, but it's about the pace of the Premier League. Because whenever he goes over Spain, he looks absolute mustard. He's got time on the ball. He can do things, and the things that he can do, would be really impressive if he could do them at Premier League pace. I don't think that he's going to carry it. I think that the one that I think is possibly a better fit is Ndombele. And I don't know whether he's burnt all his bridges. But he's someone that I think is actually a better fit for a Postecoglou system than Lo Celso is.
Do you think, JP, that if Daniel Levy took Ndombele again aside, put an arm around him and said, when I was a boy, people told me I couldn't do it, but I did, like in the documentary. Do you think that would help?
100%. Yeah, and he can just talk about his Oxford days and was it Cambridge? I don't know. It was one
Cambridge.
Cambridge, thank you. My Cambridge days. Oh, they love me there now. I disagree a little bit with Paul. I think Ndombele's got all of the kind of end product on the ball that a Postecoglou system would need, but you can't have Kane and Ndombele not pressing in that system. So,
but Ndombele plays as a 6, so he's not meant to press.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, that could work. I don't know if he's got enough body to get around the pitch because that 6 still needs to do a lot of the kind of side to side movement and covering where the defenders have moved forward. But I think Lo Celso could work in that role. The problem is that he doesn't have enough end product to be unlocking defenses for us. He's more of a kind of pick up the ball and dribble type player than a pass first player. So from that regard, Ndombele is a better fit.
I think we'll see him in Perth. I think he'll be playing in Perth. And I think that is his opportunity to show that he can fit. And if he doesn't fit, then he'll be out the door.
Lo Celso's an interesting one.
Seriously, Call, you think they'll both be in Perth?
Why not?
I think that Lo Celso is the one that's likely to go. And maybe that's just because there's already interest in him. But I think that the Spanish league is a better fit for him. And he'll excel there. And I think a lot of it comes down to players as well. And Ndombele has said, I want to actually show that I can do it at Spurs. Lo Celso's not had any of that. And I think Lo Celso's more comfortable in the Spanish league and he'd rather be there.
I think we've also been pretty cruel on players who've, there's this attitude of they didn't work under a whole bunch of managers. Lo Celso was injured for most of his time under Mourinho in that second season. And then when Conte came in, I think he was injured to start with there as well. So we haven't really seen him.
We certainly haven't seen the best of him. I think when he finished the season with Mourinho, I think you said he was up for one of the players of the season. One of you did, and he was good. End of that season, he was good, and I thought, Christ, he's going to improve and kick on and be a real integral part of the midfield. I actually like Lo Celso. Now, from what I hear, his problems are attitude, and he's not well liked at the training ground by some of the other players because he's quite sort of aloof and doesn't really connect well with the rest of the team. But that's only what I've heard. It might be complete nonsense. He's a player who, when you watch him play for Argentina, you go, Christ, wouldn't he be good on my team? And let's not forget, he was their main man going into the World Cup until he got injured, and I think his injury record is pretty poor. And that gave McAllister a shout, didn't it? And look where that's led. So I think Lo Celso can do it. It's just whether Ange can get the best out of him. And from everything I hear about Ange, he gets the best out. I mean, you said it yourself earlier, Paul. He's good at getting players to perform for the team. Yeah. And I think the tour will be particularly interesting. 3 games or whatever it is to see. Actually, does he give these players? Does he get to run the rule over them? Because a good coach gets more out of people, and sometimes you do have to work with what you've got to a degree, especially with 37 or however many full-time pros we've got at the club, in the first team. So it will be an interesting one. I'll be interested to see what squad they take out there because they normally take a lot of youth, but there's so many first-team players.
Yeah.
If you want
there's going to be a few youth players coming out here because there's a few that have got close to first-team squad in the last season as well. So, I think you'll see some of those coming out here. And he does have a reputation as well for bringing youth players through his systems. So, I think that there will be opportunities for younger players in Ange's Spurs.
It's in our DNA.
Just on Ange improving players, there was some heresy on this pod earlier the week with Jack's son. Yep. Came out saying words like...
Oh, he's going to line them up.
Everywhere he's been at the club with the most money and the most resource, and he's been able to do whatever he wants. You can level that accusation at Celtic and no other club that he has managed at. So if you want to take 2 of his 27 years of management experience and run a basis off the back of that, then I'm not going to change your mind. But all his work in the A-League was under a salary cap. The idea that the City group had done a cash injection into the Marinos is crap, because they had been there 4 years before he arrived and they'd done nothing in that time. And they only own 20%, and it's more of a scouting network for them than a dominate the football landscape network. So he takes teams that are significantly kind of below the standard that he could expect to get out of them and improves them significantly. Brisbane Roar, basket case. And then he turned them into the best, Australian side ever. Australia, no right to win that Asian Cup. Did really well, dominated it. And Yokohama had, been nowhere. They were near relegation the season before, and he got them to win a title in 2 years.
So a bit of biffo there between.
Bit of biffo.
Yeah, between
you. Just reminded me of something, JP, because, there's been a lot of talk about how does Kane fit into a Postecoglou system. And his time at Victory, Thompson was 34 or something at that time.
Like that.
So he'd kind of slowed down a fair bit, and he had him looking like a world beater again. So
got him back into the Socceroos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Archie had a bit more energy about him than what Kane does. Wouldn't you say, JP?
But he's in his early 30s at that point, and I suppose that the football over here at that time wasn't at the same kind of pace, but he managed to get him playing within the system without having to be that incredibly pacey forward running through.
Interesting times. It will be interesting. Right, moving on. We've got the nominations are all in for the fan advisory board. Paul, tell us more.
I've applied to be a Thunderbird. So there's a bunch of different categories. So I think that you probably would have got the season ticket nominations come to you.
Yeah.
People who are One Hotspur members will have got the One Hotspur nomination coming to them. People who are in UK supporters clubs, the chairs and that kind of thing will have got the UK nominations, and I'm in the overseas category. So anyone who's chair of an overseas supporters club will get that coming through to them. I think that there's a lot of talk about how effective the FAB can be, and I think that particularly when you look at the sort of overseas supporters clubs, there's a lot of us, and we need to create our own structure to then report into the FAB so that we can actually get some mileage out of it. Because if we're trying to do it just one person going in and just trying to work it all out for themselves, it's just going to fall apart. And that's probably the same when you look at the UK, and it's probably the same when you look at One Hotspur. You've got to look at a way of how does everyone else get their voice into the FAB, because that's the point of it. The point of it is, the club have been forced and had their arm twisted to hear our voice. So, it's really up to all of us to get involved in it in whatever way we can, so that the club actually understand what a clusterfuck they make of the fan experience.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I've never heard of any of the season ticket holder guys, so I'm going to have to read their statements, that means, because I can't just vote for my favourite. It's not like putting an X in Paul's box. I can't do that, unfortunately.
No, I think that it's really important to read the statements, mate. I mean, for all of them, even if you know them, read the statements. There's some that are certainly in the overseas that are sending out unsolicited emails to everyone, with their "please vote for me" message.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that because I'm not that person. But read all of the statements and do it for whatever category you're able to vote in. Read all the statements, see what you think's the best thing for you and getting your voice in the club, and vote for them. It may not be the best mechanism, but it's the only one we got.
Well, it's an interesting choice, and I'm sure I will peruse these statements carefully before casting my vote. But yeah, JP, Cam, views on the fan advisory board? Is it worthless or is it worth something?
I don't know how much it's actually going to be listened to, but any chance we've got for the fans to have their say into the boardroom is something that's positive in my opinion. Now, whether that gets listened to is, we've got no evidence to say that it will be. We've got no evidence to say that it won't. Something new. So,
please, sir, I have evidence.
You've got evidence? Go for it.
2 years ago, I wrote to the club via the trust, and I said that the One Hotspur memberships really didn't suit overseas supporters because most of the benefits were based on going to the match or going to the ground. And it didn't make any sense for us to be paying, 50 quid to have a membership that gave us absolutely nothing. So the trust got involved in that. I had a meeting with the club 2 years ago, and they came back with some suggestions which didn't go forward then, that didn't make the cut in the boardroom. But the overseas supporters this year have been given a One Hotspur Connect option, which is 10 quid, and you get benefits like it's like a 15 quid voucher off the shop, and things like that. So there's benefits in there that add up and make sense, that you wouldn't have without the One Hotspur membership at all. Doesn't have match day benefits or tour benefits, but that doesn't matter because we don't get to do that anyway. So if you get the right message to the club and you do it in the right way, they do listen. They don't necessarily always act on it. They don't necessarily act on it in the time frame that we'd like them to, but they're a very big organisation and they turn slowly. It's like trying to turn an oil tanker. So I'm going to say that they do listen. It's just they don't respond in the time that we want them to.
There you go.
Fan advisory board, positive.
Yeah, well, I think so. I think that any opportunity we have to get our voice into the club is a positive thing, and they're now forced to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I should be up there with the nominations. Let's face it, but that's a different story for a different day. Anyway, you have to stand to it.
Just wearing the Big Ange polo. That's enough for you to get on the fan advisory board. Surely,
I like an Ange polo. It's a branded one, of course. So there you go, mate. I do feel a little bit left out tonight that I haven't got a beanie hat on. I'll be really honest with you. But it's roasting in here. I did actually think when I went and got my beer, I'll go get a beanie hat. That'll be funny. But no, I thought no.
What's roasting, caller? 22 degrees?
17, mate. 17 is where you take your shirt off in England.
It's been a nice 26, 27 today. So it's nice, really. Perfect. British Summer's Day.
Can I just answer Kerry's message? So you're saying we get that with a One Hotspur membership. So this is a One Hotspur membership for overseas, but instead of paying the 50 quid, you pay 10 quid.
Makes sense. You're not going to use half the benefits. Take them off and make it a bit cheaper.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a fair.
It's a great
Adrian, that you leave early. So why would you get on the FAB?
I think that's well. At least I'm there.
Harsh but fair.
I mean, at least I'm there at all. Would be my feedback. And pay your money, you leave whenever you want. For me. Yeah, there we go. Right, we're at the end of the show. JP, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for getting up early. Thanks
Show
for
me
sharing
your pajamas.
Huh?
Show me your pajamas. You want to.
Here we go.
There
we are. For those who thought I was lying. Dinosaurs tonight. Yeah, me and the boys are all matching. So
matchy.
Very cute. Yeah.
Cam, thanks for joining us with your Union Jack proudly displayed in the background. She's lovely.
No comment.
No
Union
need.
flag.
Sorry, Union flag. There we go. And Paul in Australia with your collection of guitars, almost as large as mine. Thank you very much for joining.
I know that's my favourite one here. It's nice, isn't it?
It is lovely. Yeah,
I know.
It's good. It's a good collection.
I've got a load more as well. I don't have room on the wall for them.
Is that Les Paul on the right there?
No.
Hang on.
Yeah, looks like one.
No, there's no Les Pauls. That's the. I think you're looking at
JP.
Oh, well, there we go. And look, this time next week, who knows? We might have signed a player. Raya is close, apparently. So we're all excited about that. And
it's still June. We don't do that.
It is only June, isn't it? It's early days. It's early days. I'm sure we'll get there in the end.
Manager hasn't even started yet.
To be honest, I'm waiting for Ange to get on board because I think the sooner he's on board and actually has a look at the players, the sooner things will get moving. But there we go. We are back on Monday with a great show, transfer themed. So do tune back in for that. Please do remember to like and subscribe this video. And of course, if you subscribe and click the notification bell, you'll be notified every time we go live. Thanks very much for watching, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs, and go Aussies in the Ashes.
No.